Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Tim Richards and today I want to talk about the Germany national team. They've got some World Cup qualifying games coming up in the next week and a bit. It is of course international break, so there's nothing else going on, so I figured I might as well have a chat about the current state of the Germany national team. The whole context around this is that, so the games that they're playing are for the World Cup qualifiers, but this coming tournament, Euros in the summer, it was announced that this is actually going to be Jogi Löw's last tournament managing Germany. And, you know, a lot can be said about him as a manager, about him as a man manager, him as a tactician. You can kind of go on for a while talking about that. His whole career as Germany manager can really kind of be summed up as he is somebody that could have potentially bowed out as the greatest. He could have been loved by everybody. You know, he could have been seen as, you know, the guy that was behind the 2014 World Cup win. He was the guy that got to the finals of Euro 2008, got to the semi-finals of the other year of the Euros that came after that, etc., etc. But that's just not the case. He has very much kind of shot himself in the foot for all of the good that he's done. Like he was the first manager to actually play Joshua Kimmich as a right back. There's kind of like this rumour that it was actually Guardiola that did it, but it was Jogi Löw that was the guy that said, I'm going to play him as a right back. And then he's also managed to get guys like Thomas Müller to be kind of like focal points of the national team. Like he was the guy that took over from what seems to be a fairly stable, if stagnant, Germany team in 2006. Kind of turned them into this really dominant, really aggressive, very fast, kind of like a trendsetter in the way that other national teams play. But that's just not the case. He could have had all of that, but it was his decisions in the latter stages of his career as manager that's kind of led to a lot of people, myself included, thinking this guy should have gone a very long time ago. This guy probably should have bowed out after the World Cup, after the 2014 World Cup. He definitely should have bowed out after the last World Cup. But it's neither here nor there. I think, like, I'm obviously going to be biased because of the way that he's treated Thomas Müller, Mats Hummels as well, because obviously Mats Hummels was a Bayern player when he said that him, Müller and Boateng weren't going to be there for the future. But with that being said, we look to the future. So for the last few games that Jogi Löw is going to be manager of Germany, let's have a look at what's going on. The games that Germany are going to be playing are against Iceland, Romania and North Macedonia. In any other situation, you'd think, that's fine. In the current state of the Germany national team, these are difficult games. These are very difficult games. The form that Germany have been in is woeful. Oh, goodness me, it's not good at all. Their last national game was 6-0 defeat against Spain. And okay, maybe you think, oh, Spain are a good team, maybe. No, this was abysmal. It could have been like 7-8, 9-0, maybe. It's in the past, we move. So let's have a look at some of the players. Well, let's have a look at all of the players that Jogi Löw has decided to call up for his last ever World Cup qualification. 4 goalkeepers, 3 games, 4 goalkeepers. Already quite a strange decision, but maybe he's opting for a whole safety and numbers approach. With that, he's got Manuel Neuer, Bernd Leno, Marc-Andre ter Stegen and Kevin Trapp. Kevin Trapp very much the 4th choice there, I think. And almost as sure as that, Manuel Neuer definitely the 1st. I think for as long as Neuer is an active footballer, he is going to be Germany's first choice. Is going to be Bayern's first choice as well. And you can look at the stats in the Bundesliga and see Bayern have conceded like well over 30 goals already. Is this guy past his prime? No, quite frankly, he is still very much one of the best, if not the best goalkeepers in the world. And if it wasn't for Neuer, then Bayern would have conceded, I don't know, probably over 40. He is making very good saves every single game, and sometimes probably winning games or having a hand in winning games as much as players like Lewandowski have been. So with that in mind, Neuer is first choice. He probably won't play all of these games, I think, considering how good ter Stegen is and also how reliable Bernd Leno is. He's another guy that's in a team whose defence kind of lets him down slightly. I think you can maybe expect to see potentially ter Stegen play one of these games. But as I said, for as long as Neuer's in charge, for as long as Neuer's playing, that's the case. In defence, the defence is maybe slightly more interesting. It's not interesting. It's definitely not interesting. It's slightly more indicative of what it is that Jogi Löw is going to be doing. In defence, you've got Emre Can. Not a great start. He is a midfielder, but whatever. He's playing in a back three for Borussia Dortmund. Jonathan Tah, not actually a very good footballer, funnily enough. So that's quite a strange. Not good so far. Really not good. Niklas Süle, his form hasn't been good. He's kind of coming back into it. He's nowhere near his best, but he's kind of coming back into it slowly but surely. Antonio Rudiger, again, another player whose form really isn't all that at the moment. I think Chelsea's defence has really picked up over the past few weeks since Thomas Tuchel's taken over. The defence has very much picked up, but Antonio Rudiger, for the longest time this season, really hasn't looked to be. I don't want to say he's not worthy of a call-up, because I think every possibility that he could do very well. But as we're going to establish, your form this season simply does not matter. Matthias Ginter is probably the only centre-back whose form has actually really warranted this nomination. I think good squads have guys like Matthias Ginter in there. I think the way that he plays for Borussia Mönchengladbach is really reliable, very consistent. You're never going to get like a 10 out of 10 performance from Ginter, but you're never going to get anything lower than a 7. I think that's incredibly useful. I'm more than happy to see him in there. Lucas Klosterman, the only guy that could potentially comfortably play as a right back. So Süle has been playing as a right back on occasion for Bayern recently, but Klosterman's the only guy that has done it regularly in the past. But at the same time, he typically plays as a central defender. So that's kind of indicative that this is probably going to be a 3-man defence, especially considering that Emre Can is involved in the defensive line. He's also picked 3 left-sided defenders, like left back, left wing back, whatever you want to call it. Marcel Halstenberg, again, much like Klosterman, typically plays in the middle, so he probably would play as like a left back or left wing back for Leipzig if Angelino wasn't the guy that was doing that. But this doesn't suggest to me, it's going to be a back 4 and Halstenberg on one side, Klosterman on the other. This says back 3. And also guys like Robin Gosens, who's best used as a wing back, as he does for Atalanta, and Philipp Max, who I think should have been called up to the Germany squad about 3 years prior to this. Like, I know that he's getting in the team regularly now, but there was a season, I think it was the one leading up to the World Cup in 2018, he got 13 assists. And just inexplicably was left behind. So to see Philipp Max get a call-up is great and everything. To see it happen now and not 3 years ago is kind of frustrating. But yeah, as I said, everything to do with that is indicative that this is a 3-man backline. And to be honest, I don't really know what that backline is going to be. Ginter, I think, is a lock-on for this. Potentially Rudiger, potentially Süle. I guess that's maybe like the starting backline, but even so, I don't know, I think Emre Can, oddly, the one guy that isn't actually a central defender, is probably one of the more reliable guys, along with Ginter. But, oh well, doesn't matter, he's gone in a few months anyway, so this isn't Jogi Löw's problem at all. Let's have a closer look at the midfield. So the entire list is, this is the thing that I really, really don't like about Germany's national team call-ups, is that they bundle the midfield and attack together. And it's so jarring because it doesn't suggest that like, it's going to be like really, really fluid. It's like, we don't really know, just it's going to be one of these guys. Serge Gnabry, Leon Goretzka, Ilkay Gundogan, Kai Havertz, Jonas Hoffman, Joshua Kimmich, Toni Kroos, of course he's gone back to Spain, Jamal Musiala, Florin Neuhaus, Leroy Sane, Timo Werner, Florin Wirtz and Armin Younes. An odd selection. It's an odd selection, and I don't know. I don't know what to think about this. Obviously, this is World Cup qualifiers, so it's not a super competitive series of games, but at the same time, these are must-win games. As I said, the defence is kind of indicative of a 3-man backline. The attack and midfield, the way that Germany incorporate the midfield and the attack in one group, really, it's not mind games like, what are we going to do? Like, it's like, what are we going to do? Like, there seems to be no attacking idea There's no sense of creativity. Let's just have a look. So in terms of midfield, Germany could potentially field a trio of Joshua Kimmich, Leon Goretzka and Ilkay Gundogan. That's a fantastic midfield. That's got determination, creativity, balance, defensive stability, tactical awareness, everything that you could possibly want. You've got, I'm going to be biased, the best double pivot in European football at the moment, and probably the most informed, certainly one of the most informed German midfielders in the form of Ilkay Gundogan. The fact that Toni Kroos has withdrawn from this squad should, in theory, with any other manager, be a good thing, because it can give Jogi Löw the opportunity to see, oh, this is what we can actually have. We can have this fantastically balanced midfield without shoehorning in this guy that, you know, doesn't necessarily have that sort of defensive stability. He doesn't have that relentless attacking prowess. While I'm excited to see what this sort of thing can do for the next 3 games, I'm not confident that those 3 are going to be starting together in the Euros. It's a shame, because on paper it makes so much sense. There's also Florin Neuhaus, who I think has been doing really, really well for Gladbach. There's actually rumours of him going to Bayern, potentially, of course. So I don't know. I think he's a good option to have. To be fair, like, all of the guys that have come from Gladbach this season have been doing really well. I think the way that they've been playing since it was announced that Marco Rose is actually going to Dortmund is a shame, but I don't think that should be indicative of like what their season is as a whole. I think the way that they've been playing has been absolutely fantastic, and you can see why guys like Ginter are getting called up when Neuhaus is being linked with a move elsewhere. It's really good to have guys like them in the squad that will just show up and play good football. In the slightly more attacking phase, you've got guys like Leroy Sane, Jonas Hoffman, who are probably going to be playing out on the right. Leroy Sane kind of struggled a little bit at the start of this season, because obviously he had that injury that took him out for just over a year. But it's really great to see that he's really coming into it. He's really upped his defensive output as well. It's really great to see that he's coming into form and is so eager to score, which is exactly what Germany need right now. It's what Bayern need, but specifically Germany needs somebody to score goals, and it's probably going to be from him or Serge Gnabry. We'll get to that in a second. But also Jonas Hoffman, another Gladbach guy. Versatility, reliability. He's done well in a number of positions, and again, much like Matthias Ginter, he's somebody that he isn't going to be the guy to like win you the game. Like, oh, thank goodness we had Jonas Hoffman. He's going to be somebody to show up, do the hard work, and just keep going. And I would be more than okay to see him be like a regular feature, not just in the Euros but also in the World Cup or like whenever. I think he has certainly earned his place in this squad. In the middle, you've got guys like Kai Havertz, who's really only just started to turn good for Chelsea. It's only in the last couple of weeks or so. I think his move to Chelsea, I've thought about this a lot. It made no sense in my eyes to get both Werner and Havertz. I think one or the other would have been absolutely perfect, but they both very much take up the exact same sort of role on a pitch, which is somebody that plays just off of like a slightly bigger striker. But I don't know, I think it's important to see somebody like Kai Havertz come into good form. Whether he will play up top or slightly behind in the 10 or like as a second striker, that remains to be seen, because I think you can't really ignore just how good Ilkay Gundogan's been this season. But then do you kind of take him out and say, yeah, but Kai Havertz is the future, because Gundogan's like 30, I think. It was certainly approaching 30. I don't know, it's a good problem to have, one that I certainly don't envy at all. But I think going on form for like the last season or so, it's hard to see not only why Havertz is called up, but now that he is here, where exactly does he fit best? I think having like versatility, much like Jonas Hoffman, is a really, really valuable thing for Havertz. It's probably why he was so expensive for Chelsea in the first place. I think he certainly has his place in the team, whether that's as a starter or as like a really good option off the bench, because obviously he's quick enough to play out wide, he could potentially play up top. The list goes on. And then you've got 2 youngsters. You've got Florian Wirtz and Jamal Musiala. I'm delighted. I'm so excited. Every time I've seen Florian Wirtz play, he always wants the ball. He always looks really, really comfortable on it and shows this great maturity. And it's kind of the same for Musiala. I think less so Musiala. I want to say that Florian Wirtz is potentially slightly more of an integral part to Leverkusen than Musiala is to Bayern. But at the same time, Musiala's just turned 18, Florian Wirtz is still 17, I think, for another couple of months or so. Having this new breed, this new generation of players coming in to learn from guys like Leroy Sane, like Serge Gnabry, like the guys that are supposedly younger, they've got like 5 or 6 years ahead of these guys, probably even more than that. So it's this, whether they get time or not, that remains to be seen, but they're getting the experience of being there, and I think that's invaluable for them. I'm absolutely delighted, particularly for Musiala. I love Musiala. On the left side of the attack, in theory you've got Serge Gnabry, however I know that Jogi Löw likes to play him through the middle and have Timo Werner out wide on the left. Again, this is another guy whose form this season doesn't really warrant a call-up. And I say that as a guy that absolutely adores Serge Gnabry. I'm a Bayern fan. He's a Bayern player. He's just not been hitting it recently. I think he got a hat-trick in his first league game against Schalke. Other than that, he's just really not looked the way that he did last season. But at the same time, you know, if he's not looking at his best now, he is at his best when he's wearing a Germany shirt. I think he's like one of the most prolific players that Germany have at the moment. So in that sense, you can kind of see why he's so regularly played through the middle. In theory, this international break could come at a really good time for Gnabry. In addition to that, you've got Armin Younes. I don't know where this has come from. Armin Younes has had a really weird career. He was at Gladbach, and then he was at Ajax, and then he was at Napoli, but then he wasn't at Napoli, and then he is, and now he's at Frankfurt, and now he's in the Germany squad, and all power to him. Good for you. But I don't think that he's kind of got the pace and the physicality to effectively play as a winger for Germany. But despite that, I think he is certainly an option. Maybe against tired legs, I can't really see him starting. But hey, he's there, and good for him. And then up top, you've got Timo Werner. There is... Now, how's the best way for me to say this without seeming horrendously biased against Chelsea? There is no logical reason for Timo Werner to get called up to this team. If we're going on recent form, which is why Kai Havertz has been called up, okay, that's cool, but even so, he's really not been that good. If we want to think about the entire season, he's really not been that good. The fact that he's getting called up in favour, and I'm not even going to say in favour of guys like Thomas Müller, I'm thinking in favour of guys like Nils Petersen, Max Kruse, in favour of Kevin Volland, who's scored 14 goals, 8 assists in about 20 odd games for Monaco. The fact that Kevin Volland isn't in this team, despite playing as well as he is for Monaco, and Timo Werner is just another indication that Jogi Löw is just playing favourites. And quite frankly, in international friendlies, you can maybe get away with that. For actual World Cup qualifications, for competitive games, you can't do that. And that is ultimately the problem that a lot of people have with Jogi Löw's management right now, is the fact that he's playing favourites. He doesn't have a favourite in Mats Hummels, Jerome Boateng and Thomas Müller, so he said, you guys, I'm never getting picked again. But for some reason, he still picks guys like Timo Werner. Julian Draxler, Julian Brandt, Thilo Kehrer haven't actually been called up, so maybe this argument doesn't have legs. But I am so desperate to find a reason for Timo Werner getting called up to this squad. I simply cannot think of any logical reason. I think the biggest compliment you can give Werner is that his off-the-ball movement is really, really good, which is fantastic. But if you want to score goals, which you need to do as a centre-forward, you don't need to be off the ball. If anything, you need the opposite of that. You need to be on the ball. Like, it's all very well being great off the ball. I'm off the ball now. Nobody's given me any applause. Like, where's my cap for Germany? So that's it. That is the list that Jogi Löw has sent for his final round of World Cup qualifiers as the manager of Germany. Does this team have potential? Maybe. Are they likely to win? Possibly. Is this the team that's going to be going to the Euros? Absolutely not. Is this team capable of qualifying for the World Cup? Yeah, I think it is. I think there's enough individual quality in guys like Sane, Havertz, Gnabry, the midfield of Kimmich, Goretzka, Gundogan. I think that in itself is fine. I've got absolutely no idea how they're going to play though. I guess I think as I said, Süle, Ginter and Rudiger as a back three. left wing back Philip Max or Robin Gosens, right wing back Klosterman, maybe Serge Gnabry. I'd be interested to see what Serge Gnabry could do as a right wing back. But generally, I've got no idea, and in many ways, I don't feel that Jogi Löw has any idea either. So yeah, I will probably never talk about the Germany lineup again. Certainly not until Jogi Löw is gone. But yeah, that will do. I think that will do. If you've got any opinions on the squad, like who your favourite player is, doesn't matter because Jogi Löw probably doesn't like them anyway. So with that in mind, thank you very much for watching. Leave a comment, subscribe, tweet it, buy my merch. I don't have merch. Maybe I'll get merch. Yeah, until next time. Bye.